Hey guys, today we are going to talk about multiplying integers. So we're going to start by talking about what multiplication means in general. So we have 4 times 3 here. Notice there's no sign here. That means we're multiplying since it's next to parentheses. 4 times 3, what does that mean? Well, in elementary, when y'all talked about multiplication, you said that multiplication meant we were taking groups of something. So this is representing 4 groups of 3. So if we wanted to model 4 groups of 3, I have the model right here, we would have 3, and notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 groups of 3, if we counted all those up, we would have 12 as our answer for 4 times 3. So then 4 times 2. 4 times 2 then would mean 4 groups of 2. 4 groups of 2 means that we're going to have 4 groups, just like last time. There's 4 groups here, and they have 2 in them each, so that is 8. So if we look at the pattern here of what's happening, we did 4 times 3, that was 12. 4 times 2 is 8. We would guess that our next pattern, notice this is going down by 4, would be 4. So if we do 4 times 1, we'd have 4 groups of 1. That means we'd have 4 different groups, and 1 would be in each, and it is indeed 4. 4 times 0 then is 4 groups of 0, which means we have 4 groups, but there's nothing in them, so that is 0. So now we start getting into the negative numbers, which is where we start to think about what would happen. So if we look at the pattern, we're going down by 4 each time. This should be positive or negative 4? Negative 4. So when we're multiplying, we do regular multiplication. 4 times negative 1 means 4 groups of negative 1. So notice we again have 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, and there's a 1 red chip in each of them that's negative, therefore we have negative 4. So 4 times negative 1 is just negative 4. It's regular multiplication, 4 times 1 is 4, and then a positive times a negative is negative 4. So 4 groups of negative 2, we'd have 4 groups, negative 2 in each, would be negative 8. So anytime we are multiplying a positive times a positive, we get a positive. A positive times a negative is just the negative of whatever it was supposed to be. So 4 times 2 is 8, and since it's positive 4 times negative 2, it's negative 8. The same would go if we had negative 2 times 4. It would be the exact same. It would still equal negative 8. That's because multiplication is commutative. You can change the order, and it doesn't make a difference. 4 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 4. 4 times 0 is the same thing as 0 times 4. So 4 times negative 2 is the same thing as negative 2 times 4. It's still negative 8. So anytime we multiply a positive and a negative, we're going to get a negative. So let's look at this other example. Negative 5 times 2. So if we follow what we said before, negative times a positive, so we know our answer is going to be negative. 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 5 times 1, that's 5 times 1 is 5. A negative times a positive is a negative. So notice we're going down by 5 each time. We're getting larger by 5. Because if we look at a number line, 0 would be here, negative 10 would be here, negative 5 would be here. So we would expect our next answer to be 0. And indeed, 5 times 0 is 0. Negative times a positive, well, since it's 0, it doesn't matter. So our next answer, we would assume, would be positive 5 then. So this would be negative 5 times negative 1. Notice we were going 2, 1, 0, 1. We expect our answer to be positive 5. And then our next answer should be positive 10. So notice here we have negative 5 times negative 1. We just did 5 times 1. And since it's a negative times a negative, we got positive. Negative 5 times negative 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Negative times negative is positive. So to sum up our rules, we're saying that a positive times a positive is positive. A positive times a negative is negative. A negative times a positive is negative. And a negative times a negative is positive. The way that I like to remember this is I'd like to think of them as things and people. So I would say a good thing happening to a good person is good. A good thing happening to a bad person is bad. A bad thing happening to a good person is bad. And then a bad thing happening to a bad person is bad. Because if something bad happens to somebody who is bad, then that's good. Like